Please welcome to the stage the Future Forum, moderated by Michelle Steele.
Okay, my mic is on. I'm really excited about this upcoming panel because we're talking about the next generation of sports leadership and sports ownership. It is called the Future Forum, and I want to introduce the guests. Hannah Harris, Chief of Staff with the Washington Commanders. Tony Khan, my fellow Illini grad here, President and CEO of All Elite Wrestling, Chief Football Strategy Officer, Jacksonville Jaguars, Vice Chairman and Director of Football Operations for Fulham FC. Did I get everything?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, good. Zach Leonsis, President, Media and New Enterprises, Monumental Sports and Entertainment. And Nick Ressler, VP Strategic Planning and Alternate Governor, Atlanta Hawks, Chairman of the Atlanta Hawks Foundation. So thanks, guys, for being here. I wanted to open up first with your journey and how you decided to sort of get into the business. But I watched the documentary on the Dallas Cowboys not too long ago. And one of my favorite, there are plenty of memorable scenes in that, but one of my favorite sort of vignettes was when they interviewed Steven and Charlotte, and they were so young, right, when Jerry bought the team. And they got their reactions. They're very candid reactions to Jerry buying such an iconic franchise. And I think Jerry's exact words were, Charlotte, we're going to Dallas. So, Tony, I'm going to start with you at the far end. What was your reaction? Let's talk about the Jaguars buy.
Well, absolutely. It was very exciting. My father and I went to football games basically my whole life together. We're Illini like you, Michelle. And I grew up in Champaign, Illinois, watching college football, but we've been huge NFL fans. And it was a dream for my dad that he wanted to buy an NFL team, and he worked so hard to make it possible. If you're not familiar with his story, it's really the embodiment of the American dream. He came to America with nothing and built it all from scratch. And he's been the most supportive dad you could ever imagine. So to see him make that dream come true, it was really, really special for me. But also, I love football. So being able to work in football and do things I love with statistics and analytics and to work with my dad, it's all the best things at once.
And now you're in Jacksonville, based in Jacksonville. You're everywhere all at once, but mainly in Jacksonville.
Mainly in Jacksonville, but wrestling is 52 weeks a year. So for AEW, I'm really on the road all the time.
I can't wait to talk about AEW because that's an amazing business. And I'll share that little anecdote that I talked with the rest of the crowd that I talked to you backstage before about the AEW and their hardcore fans. Zach, what about you? By the way, you know that you've been in sports business a long time. When we talk about, reporters will often talk about covering the dad and then covering the son, when, let's say in the NFL or something. I interviewed your dad a very long time ago for Bloomberg TV. And I still remember what he said before the interview, which is, this is not going to create any headlines.
Did it?
I don't remember, so probably not.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's...
No big ones, but we were talking a little bit about the arena. Yeah.
I guess you're asking me the same question. I have had the great privilege of growing up with these teams. I was in grade school when the Capitals went on their Stanley Cup run in the 97-98 season, unfortunately falling to the Detroit Red Wings, but it was one of the first sports experiences in my life where I truly understood the gravity of the moment. I was sneaking out of my bed to watch the away games in Detroit and whatnot. I fell in love with Ole Kolzig, our Vezina trophy-winning, Conn Smythe trophy-winning goaltender at the time. And then when my father had the opportunity to bid on the teams, as a kid, you don't totally understand what's going on. You just know that you've fallen in love with this team. That sounds really cool and interesting. And it is amazing how much has changed in the last sort of 20 to 25 years. I think these sports organizations have transitioned from local mom and pop shops to very sophisticated, high growth, highly durable asset classes. And so, a lot of the work that we've done has been focused on the further professionalization of these teams And, I'm proud to be a part of it. I didn't always think I would be a part of it. There have been a couple of pivot points where I've thought about doing something entirely differently. My father went to Georgetown, was on the board of Georgetown. I said, I can't go to Georgetown. I have to do something else. I went to University of Pennsylvania. All of my friends were going to be coming up to New York to work in finance. I thought I would follow that track and go into finance. I remember having a conversation with my father and seeing his face go pretty pale white and convincing me on, you can do whatever you'd like, but there's no other business quite like sports. There's no other business that fully integrates itself within a local community, that enchants entire fan bases, that can bring people together. In Washington, D.C., it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can be a Caps fan. And when we won the Stanley Cup in 2018, it's those moments, taking your fans to the mountaintop, seeing grown people cry. You realize that this is an entirely different business than anything else on planet Earth. So I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, sports is ingrained. It feels like in everything right now. Business, culture, society. Nick, what about you? What was your reaction when you found out that your family would be involved in such an intimate way with this franchise?
I would say it was one of the most exciting moments of my life, for sure. I was in college, Hoya Sox. I also went to Georgetown, like your father.
Do you remember exactly where you were?
Yeah, I was sitting in my sophomore dorm room when I got the call, and it was a group call with my dad and my two brothers, myself. My mom was on as well, even though she knew that this was more exciting probably for the three of us and my dad. It had been a dream for him for a while, but it was actually interesting for me because I had always wanted to work in sports. I actually wanted to play. I played basketball. When I realized as a 5'9" guard that I was going to end pretty quickly, I realized I had to pivot, and I wanted to be a sports agent. Jerry Maguire was my favorite movie growing up. I wanted to be an NBA sports agent. Most of my internships were at different agencies, so it was an interesting moment because at one hand, I was so excited for what my family was about to get ourselves into, but at the other hand, I realized I wasn't going to be able to be an NBA sports agent because it was a conflict of interest. So I had to pivot for there and think, well, do I really want to do this? So I worked in finance for a year, but the entire year I was sitting with my back to a wall watching Hawks games while I was at the office because I knew that I wanted to go and eventually work for the family business. And I had a conversation with my brothers, my dad, my mom, asked them all their thoughts. And the first thing that my dad said to me was, I love this idea, but if you're going to do it, you're going to move your ass to Atlanta and you're going to do it the right way. I quit my job a week later, and I've been in Atlanta for 8 years now, and it's been the best thing for not only myself, but also my family. I also remember when we created our group chat with my brothers and my dad, and that's probably the best part of all of this, is that we get to have those memories together, whether it's a preseason game, the second quarter on a Monday night, or it's a Game 7 of a playoff series. We're in that group chat talking about a missed dunk, a missed layup, not getting back on defense. So it's really exciting for my family and for my dad.
Hannah, what about you? I think of everybody on this panel, you're the most recent entrant here. So it's a relatively recent memory for you.
Yes. So the Sixers acquisition happened when I was around 12 years old. So I was very young. I think similar to Zach, you're young, you don't maybe understand the gravity of what is happening. The Sixers and the Devils and then Crystal Palace kind of became my entire life every Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, heading down to games. It's funny, I'm the oldest of 5 kids in my family. Of all of us, I was probably the least likely to go into sports. So it's kind of crazy that I'm here today. I started
practicing your Jerry Maguire impressions
exactly,
like Nick was.
Exactly.
Okay.
I started my career at PepsiCo in the sports marketing department, and that's where I actually really fell in love with sports as a platform. I knew I wanted to dedicate my career to that, and so when the Washington Commanders acquisition took place, I knew I had to join the family business. Joined our family office on the deal team that underwrote the acquisition. I didn't have a ton of finance experience beforehand, so it was imperative for me to understand how to read a P&L, how to understand valuations, really think about, to Zach's points, sports as an asset class. And then about a year ago, I joined our new team president, Mark Klaus, to be his chief of staff. But really, for my family, we very much view ourselves as stewards of these franchises, and so I try to continue to embody that in my day-to-day operations.
And what has that process been like? You know, coming from Pepsi and joining the Commanders, obviously both household names, huge brands. As you mentioned, you guys want to be stewards of that brand. What was it like ramping up, learning about the team?
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I mean, coming from a Fortune 100 company, you learn a lot about governance and process and organizational structure. And when we came in with the Commanders, sports teams have been traditionally operated more like mom and pop shops, to Zach's point. So really had to lean on that experience of these structures and processes that I had grown up with. It's funny, Mark, because he has a CPG background, we very much relate to that experience together of he'll talk about a process that he wants to implement into our day-to-day, and it's something that I knew from when I was at PepsiCo. So very much, I think the experience is quite complementary in a lot of ways of what we're trying to do.
Zach, Hannah just talked about the moment for her when she decided, I want to be involved in this business. I want to be very involved in this business. What was that moment like for you? You mentioned that you thought you were going to come to New York, right, and work in finance. What made you sort of pivot away from that and want to be involved?
Well, I think, as the son of a owner or whatnot, you walk into a certain situation where people are wondering what your ambitions are, what can you contribute, what experience do you have. And so when I first came in to the organization, I really walked in with a lot of humility. I didn't try to walk in and tell people what to do because I didn't know what to do. Who was I to say how people should do their jobs? I wanted to be tutored. I wanted to be a pupil. I wanted to learn. And I did, and I focused on, you can be focused on treating people well, and you can control how hard you work. And so I focused on those things to start. And then I started to sort of intuitively understand that there were certain parts of our organization that were more fully developed on the sales and marketing side, for example, and parts of our organizations that were underdeveloped. I think media operations was a great example of that. A lot of investment opportunities, thinking strategically about how we think about all of our portfolio of teams. Our strategy is that we own and operate a multitude of teams, venues, now a network, and other investments, all in Washington, D.C. in a fully integrated fashion. We talk about our business as being a platform company. And I think originally we operated our teams in individual silos. We couldn't find operational scale or leverage from that standpoint. So we revamped the way we operate in terms of focusing on shared services, on fully integrated sales efforts, on one central database, and then creating a strategy where we could acquire new businesses and fully integrate them like we did with our network, to launch new businesses off our platform like we've done with esports or sports betting or digital and streaming. And so I started to cut my teeth in some of those different areas. I did go to Georgetown to get my MBA because I thought it'd be fulfilling and allowed me to go to school full-time while working part-time. I knew that was a pivot point where if I was ever going to leave, I could do it again. And, Don Graham changed my life. I think my father felt like he had convinced me the first time. He said the second time, I'm not going to try to do it again, but I want you to talk to someone who's truly great. Don's mother was Katharine Graham, who used to run the Washington Post. And he stepped into her shoes and was beloved by Washington Post employees. He's a hero of mine. He's a hero in Washington, D.C., and we spent a full Saturday afternoon one-on-one together having a real conversation about legacy, about life, about reputation, about the mark you want to leave. And, I'm so lucky. I'm very tight with my dad, and he has built a great legacy in Washington, D.C., and I think the overwhelming majority of our fans love my father and are appreciative of the work that he does. And I want to be representative of that next generation and keeping the good times going. And so he's done a masterful job of trying to balance competing for championships while building shareholder value and trying to become one of the world's largest and most important sports, entertainment, and media companies in the world, while also doing good. And, now I begin to do that balancing act. And We've had great success on the business side. We've acquired major businesses. I've led over $2 billion worth of transactions on the equity and debt side. It'll be $3 billion in the not-too-distant future. We want to acquire new businesses. I've got over 200 direct reports, a couple $100 million in revenue. I have started to build my own P&Ls, raise my own dollars. I've certainly, I think, started to create my own path in this industry, which I'm obviously very proud of. And at the same time, I think we always want to focus on doing good, too. This last year, my family and our organization combined to donate over $20 million back to the Washington, D.C. community. We joined several boards. I lead a monthly volunteer event with our employees and whatnot. And we're really proud of how we operate and steward the franchise. Like Hannah was saying, it's a public trust. And so I do think that families are able to operate with a long-term view, and we're able to look through things through lots of unique lenses that maybe other corporations would struggle to do so. And these assets really require that. They're very, very special, and they're more meaningful than just a regular business.
Zach, Zach mentioned doing some of your own fundraising. That's interesting. Nick, you actually started your own. Tony, you started your own venture with AEW in 2019. Was that a hard sell to sell your dad on that?
No, actually, I would say it was a very hard sell, and it was a really challenging thing because it was very experimental. It was becoming the challenger brand in a space where there's a very established competitor. It's very different from the NFL or the Premier League. It's a very different structure, and it was a huge risk, and it's worked out very, very well. We've really expanded the business. We've been doing AEW now for 6 years. We're on every Wednesday night, including tomorrow night, with Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS. We're on 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central every Wednesday on TBS, and then 8 Eastern, 7 Central every Saturday night on TNT. All of the shows simulcast on HBO Max, and we put a library of the shows on HBO Max. We do pay-per-view events. They carry those now. It's a great partnership with AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. And it took a long time to really ramp up and build this up. But what's amazing is it's grown so quickly. We have AEW on in over 150 countries now. We've got fans all over the world. We went to Wembley Stadium in London and set the world record for pro wrestling attendance. We sold 81,000 tickets, over 81,000 tickets for AEW at Wembley Stadium. We'll be going back there next year also. We just did our biggest attendance ever in North America in Arlington, Texas, at the Texas Rangers Stadium in July. And we've got AEW back in Texas tomorrow. I'll be flying to Houston tonight to put the show together. And it's really exciting. But it was a very hard sell, but it was obviously a risk that's paid off for us.
What's your goal with AEW? Well, where would you like to see it one day?
I love what we're doing now. I think it's great. I want to see wrestling on TBS and TNT, and it's a thing that really there was an opportunity because pro wrestling had been on TBS since the 1970s and on TNT since the 90s, and it went away in 2001. And there should be wrestling on TBS on Wednesdays. There should be wrestling on TNT on Saturdays. It makes sense. And I love what we're doing. So every week we're putting great shows on. Last week were tremendous shows. I'm really proud of them, and I think we're going to have great shows this week. Really, for me, I think as long as we keep putting on great events and making the fans happy, you got to remember wrestling's the only sport with no off season. We go 52 weeks a year. It's the ultimate grind. But for the fans, that means there's no off season for the fans. They watch these shows year round. So every week we deliver good shows for the fans. That's really what I want to do.
Nick, I know that you mentioned when we were prepping a little bit for this panel that right now the Hawks are very, very invested in building out, right, the arena space. So many teams are looking at mixed use, commercial, as well as perhaps even residential, as well as the stadium. Where are you right now with that project?
Yeah. So when we first took ownership of the team 10 years ago, we had sort of a 4-stage approach that we felt we needed to do. First, we felt that we needed to renovate, which was Phillips Arena at the time. We did a full-scale renovation. It's now State Farm Arena, and it remains one of the best in class in the NBA. We also needed a practice facility. So we built the Emory Sports Medicine Complex because our team was practicing in the back of State Farm Arena with no windows and not a great setup for professional athletes. We now have the Emory Sports Medicine Complex and actually just finished, since it's only 8 years old, we just finished our first renovation on it this summer to make sure that remains best in class. Third, we didn't have a G League team in Atlanta. So we took the Erie Bay Hawks. We now have the College Park Skyhawks just 15 minutes south of our arena that play there, and it's a huge thing for development for our organization. And the fourth thing was, how do we develop the area outside of our arena? That was called the Gulch. And it's taken longer than we probably would have hoped to start, but we're so excited to say that now we have a 50-acre, $5 billion mixed-use development project called Centennial Yards in partnership with CIM that we're so excited for the world to see coming online here in the next couple of seasons. You'll have a Cosm, which is like a sports bar on steroids that is the best place for sports fans to watch games and have amazing food. You'll have a 5,000-person Live Nation music venue, which will be an amazing place for patrons to come see shows. You'll have hotels and offerings, food, beverage, which really didn't exist in downtown Atlanta when we first bought the team. So we're so excited for patrons not only of Atlanta Hawks games, but also of non-Hawks live events, concerts, and shows. AEW was one of them. To be able to come to our arena beforehand, have options, be able to stay at our arena after. I also think it'll be an economic driver for the city of Atlanta and also the Southeast region as a whole.
You know, you guys have all talked about being involved in the business side, of course, of these franchises. What about the sports operations side, right? Whether it's football ops, basketball ops, fill in the blank. You know, we've all seen the pictures and videos of the Colts new owners, the daughter being on the sideline, right? She's right on that headset alongside the coaches. What would you do something similar? I mean, what do you think of that kind of approach when it comes to learning sort of the X's and O's, the ins and outs of the team?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. When I first started working for the team 8 years ago, I wanted to take a 10,000-foot holistic approach to learning every aspect of the business. If I am in a position one day to be a lead decision maker, I want to be as informed about the business as possible. I think as ownership, the most important things that you have to be able to do are ask intelligent, smart questions and also hire intelligent and smart people. So when I started my journey, I knew that there was tremendous people at our organization that I could learn from, both on our business side and our basketball operations side. So I've been on a sort of 8-year learning journey from all of the executives at our business, and I started the first 3 years as a full-time amateur scout. And then I did a year as a international and pro scout. So I got such an amazing appreciation for the scouts who, there are guys that have done amateur scouting for 30, 40 years. And I got such an appreciation for the grind that those guys do day in, day out. You know, how they're watching guys. I got to see the game from a different perspective. And then I transitioned over and did a year working for our arena operations team, learning about ticketing at our arena, learning about security, how we have parking, and how we have all these different businesses that are connected. So now I am in a executive role helping run the team with my dad, but I felt it was really, really important to learn the basketball side to start.
Zach, what's been your approach there?
I am not GM. I don't want to be GM. I never will be GM. I think that growing up with the teams, you certainly start to understand where you can add value and where you can't add value. And I think one of the most important things that an ownership group can do is hire really talented people to lead team operations groups, and then to let them do their thing, to give them time, to give them budget, to give them resources, to eliminate any excuse that they have to execute on. And so that requires that you have thick skin. We're in the middle of a rebuild for our basketball team. I don't enjoy losing, but we have a long-term strategy and the emotional wherewithal to do it, and we've seen it work with a 20-year sustained window of winning on the Capital side, and hopefully we can do it on the basketball side too. I think we are very mindful of chain of command too. Chain of command really matters, and I think there are very few exceptions to the rule. I think about players like Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom, who have spent their entire careers with the Washington Capitals and are legends. Yes, we have a personal relationship with that. But I think you really do have to be careful. And so our involvement is at the highest level with a team president in terms of budget and strategy, but they run the show. They run the show, and we outsource it to them, and we have our full faith and trust that they're going to be able to execute on a vision. And then it is our responsibility that if we see it going off strategy for whatever reason, we're allowed to ask questions, obviously, there too.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, it's the elephant in the room for all of you, right? You don't necessarily need to introduce yourselves to people in the facility because 99% of people will already know who you are. So how do you manage that relationship with other colleagues around the office?
Well, it depends on the organization, right? I work in a few different sports organizations and have different roles at the different places, but typically it's been on the sports side and less on the business side. I own and operate the largest and best sports analytics engineering firm in the world, True Media Networks out of Boston. We do sports analytics and engineering services for 28 out of the 30 Major League Baseball clubs and ESPN, and that's actually where I first met you, Michelle, when we did our first panel. We've been doing panels together for 12 years now. And
we look like we've been doing panels for 12 years.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I typically have worked more on the sports side. I think my father, who is the most supportive dad in the world, is actually here and would be a much more interesting interview than I am up here. He is very involved also on football, but also on the business side, and he's built the Jaguars stadium and infrastructure and built up things in the city of Jacksonville around the Jaguars that has really been very transformative to the city of Jacksonville and the Jaguars organization. But both of us do things on the football side. I am very involved in analytics and statistics. I think my dad hired a great new head coach and general manager this year, and we work really closely with them. I am the general manager of Fulham Football Club and the sporting director. We work really closely with the coach and, do the transfers there. And statistics and analytics is a huge part of that. Hannah's family, obviously, also in the Premier League. We know we're cross-London rivals. And then wrestling's totally different from other sports. So dealing with a pro wrestler is a lot different when you're putting interviews and matches and rivalries together. It's a lot different than working in the Premier League or the NFL, and I can only imagine what the NBA is like for all of you. But working on the sports side is a dream come true, and I'm blessed to be there.
I think one thing that everybody in this room might be able to relate to is the number of times that we've all maybe eye-rolled our dads, right? The dynamic is very different, parent-kid versus like in a working relationship. So how do you talk to your dad? How do you interact with your dad in a business sense, right?
So I love working with my family. I work with both my dad and my mom. My mom is the chairwoman of our foundation. And I'm oldest of 5 kids. We have a very supportive, involved family, to say the least. I sometimes have to stop talking about work at the dinner table because my other siblings get jealous and they're not in the family business. But, I mean, what I'll say is for both my parents, they are both so smart. I mean, I get a front row seat to seeing how Josh Harris operates all his sports and businesses. So it's such an incredible honor to be able to learn and participate in that and help set the vision as well.
Nick, do you speak with your dad differently when you're talking about the Hawks versus family stuff?
I would say that in our family, family stuff and the Hawks business is so intertwined now that we can't separate it at the dinner table. I would think sometimes my wife and sometimes my mom would wish that we could, but it's really hard for us to because we care about it so much. But it's been, I'm not oblivious to how lucky I am to be in this situation and to be able to work with my dad on a day-to-day basis. It's truly a blessing, and it's the best thing I could have ever asked for. So, yes, we have our tiffs here and there and some disagreements at time to time, but I have so much respect for what he's built outside of the Atlanta Hawks and continues to build at the Atlanta Hawks and in the city of Atlanta, and I just want to build on the legacy that he has done.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for being here today. This was a very insightful panel. Didn't think that we'd have Shad Khan in the house. So, Shad, what did you think of Tony's performance today? Thumbs up?
We're here to encourage our kids.
Okay. He is a supportive dad. All right, thanks so much, everybody, and
Thank you so much.
on to the next panel.
KOG.